Welcome everyone to the Faded ARPG podcast, episode number 145. We are 1 week into Path of Exile 2 early access, and we have tons of things to talk about from our first playthrough and first experiences with the game. So without further ado, welcome with me, BalorMage. How are you doing?
Ooh, fantastic. I'm ready to go. I want to do this a million years in a row. It's the only game I want to play.
All right, perfect. So let's get our guests on stage with us. We got Sirgog and Snoobe85, this time live with us. Welcome. How are you doing, Sirgog?
All right. For those of you that missed this in chat, we had a bit of a false start before. We actually accidentally started this on Twitch, and we got to exactly this point. And then Catmaster realized, oops, we haven't gone live on YouTube as yet. So he went and fixed that, and now we're starting again. Answer to the question, though, exhausterated. A mixture of exhausted, exhilarated at the same time.
All right. That I think I can imagine why. We'll get into that in a second. Snoo, how have you been? Long time no see.
I'm feeling the same way as Sirgog. I've been getting about half as much sleep as normal, and it's not because I haven't had the time to sleep. It's because I've chosen not to sleep for like a week straight. It's been great. It's been great. It's had its rough patches, I will say, but it's been great overall.
Great. Well, I think it makes sense that for context, we will quickly talk about our starts again, what character we chose to play, how long we took through the acts, and what build. I think since the audience already heard from Balor and me, let's go with the guests first, and then we catch up. Sirgog, what has been your weapon of choice?
So I'm in this weird spot of being extremely busy with things that aren't actually playing the game at the moment, which is making videos and things like that. It's something Path of Exile content creators, we don't necessarily get to play as much as people might think. And so I've been doing boss guides and stuff like that. That's meant that I've had a lot less time to play. So far, I'm actually still in the middle of Act 6 on my first playthrough. I got a little bit unlucky in that I chose the Blood Mage. I was like, okay, I'm going to be determined. We'll go with the Blood Mage. And then it's turned out that it's been a weak choice. It's not that it's a bricked character class. It's got some power there. But you kind of forced, your first 4 points are forced to be the Leech. And that puts you in a fairly awkward spot. Anyways, before the game went live, there was a data mine tree going around and it was incorrect. And so there were a number of things there. I was like, oh, okay, I could go physical chaos or I could go tri-element. Both seemed to have support. And so I locked on the tri-element because that seemed cool. And then it turned out when we got into the game that the tree was not the way we thought it was at the start. So there's been a few things that have gone wrong, but it's fully functional now. It took me it was very slow till the end of Act 2. That's Act 2 normal. And then a little bit sluggish through Act 3, but then started getting it really going, especially once Frostwall came online. Frostwall was an incredible upgrade for the character. And now it sort of feels like it's cruising, but make it up for lost time.
All right. I'm happy to hear that I'm not the only one who's not in maps yet. I'm also towards the latter half, I think, of Act 3, where you do the time traveling stuff. But yeah, I'll go into my stuff in just a second. Snoobe, what have you been playing? I'm most curious.
Just a little quick backstory. Back when that one other game that had a monk character came out, I remember that time quite fondly. Does anybody know which game I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Some small indie game, right?
Diablo 3. Diablo 3 monk came out. I was really excited to try that archetype. A lot of people think I like bows, like I'm just automatically going to play bow build. Actually, my favorite fantasy archetype is like quick, fast agility, rogue, like that kind of thing. Like I played a rogue in World of Warcraft most of the time. It's not actually bows. But anyway, so when I heard that class was announced, I was like, probably going to do that one because of such fond memories before. And I theory crafted the bejesus out of it as much as I could, even with the bad data mining and trying to work through that. It was a rough ride, but I don't regret any minute of it. It was really, really fun. It's like the game before the game. It's almost as much fun as playing the game to me. And a lot of that theory crafting paid off. So been playing Monk. I decided I wanted to do flicker strikes. I saw it in the trailer. A lot of people saw that and were like, wait a minute, that doesn't look all that slow. In Path of Exile 2, I thought this was going to be a slow game, but you see flicker strike in action. It doesn't look very slow, of course. And a few things have changed. Basically went from being lightning to cold, but that's the only major change. Yeah, it's been good. My hardest time was in the cruel axe, surprisingly. Yeah, I breezed through Act 1 and Act 2. Act 3 started to get a little hard. And then Acts 5 and 6 were just absolutely brutal for me. It was an issue of not ever checking the vendors, though, because I'm a PoE 1 veteran. And so new players were better off than I was in this sense. They did say, veterans would have a harder time in some sense. And this was one example of it. I started checking the vendors in Act 6, and then I found a belt that I wore all the way into like tier 10 maps in Act 6. There was a belt that I bought off a vendor that I think I sold it for like 10x afterwards. That's how good it was off the Act 6 vendor. Yeah, so I wish I had checked the vendors and stuff, but yeah, anyway, it's been absolutely smooth sailing upward. And I finally started making videos a couple days ago. Like Sirgog mentioned, I was putting it off, but yeah, we're back to video making.
Yeah. No, I have a similar feeling though. Like I just really want to like get enough hands-on experience before I start talking about the game. Which, yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're making in-depth boss guides, I don't want to say like you're not doing that. I don't want to contrast that. I'm sure they're very well researched and stuff like that. But I want to make like a general opinion piece about the game, right, where I talk about all my first impressions. And I feel like if I do that prematurely, it's just going to not age well, right? I need to have experienced everything to be able to give my full take. Balor, though, on the other hand, has been spending a solid week in Endgame. You haven't re-rolled, right? Are you still on that summoner?
I've not re-rolled. I'm nearly level 90. I've got 120 hours in the game so far. I've made 6 videos. I've got another 7th one coming out tomorrow. What I don't have is any sleep or time to do anything other than shower. And the sleep is only like 4 hours a night. I'm living and breathing it.
This man's a hustler. Give him a sub.
Yeah. I admire the dedication.
Yeah. I think it was the only option. I can't believe anybody is doing anything except that.
Well, I'm doing an apprenticeship and becoming an app developer, so I kind of can't. But yeah, it sucks so hard, dude. Having to see all my PoE content creator friends blast off. It's like, oh, launch of PoE 2, the biggest hype the game has ever had in 10 years, and I'm not here.
Yeah, I know a lot of people in the community are like, yeah, I got this thing going on. I got to go overseas. My work is sending me overseas for 2 weeks right when the launch took place.
I'd quit.
What a bummer, man. Really?
I'd just quit. I'd be like, nope, not doing it. See ya.
Well, it's even worse if they plan the vacation ahead of time and then it gets pushed off by 3 weeks and then they have to go overseas.
Oh, that'd be the worst.
Yeah, I'm sure that happened. At least somebody listening to this.
Well, on Friday, I got my last day at work until early January, so then we can play every single day from 20th of December to 6th of January. So I'm hoping to get a lot of content out in that time and a lot of game time in. But so far,
I thought you were going to say hoping to finish the acts.
Also. No, but like Sirgog, I'm at the end of the act playthrough, right? I'm in Act 6. Probably towards the end. I'm not sure anymore because I've only been there once before, and everything in the acts is still a little bit of a puzzle for me, right? In terms of the lore and the order of operations and like where you go when. But I think I'm going to be in maps today after the podcast and going to have my first experiences there. I've decided to...
Did you say watered down is 55% in Act 3? That's my recollection. Like when you decrease the water levels, gain access to the pyramid, that's 55%, and then when you get to the time travel part, maybe 80.
Okay, yeah. Well, then I'm solidly above that, right? Like I'm definitely doing the time travel right now because last time I vendored, I had to go through 2 load screens. I vividly remember
there's no
that.
vendor out there. Yep.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Anyway, so like I did the mercenary thing, and at first half of the game, I'd call it literally the struggle bus. It's so bad early on in comparison to what I've seen other classes being able to do and what I've like just felt now. Because now I can really, really comfortably walk through the mob packs and the maps and just shoot oil grenades, explosive grenades, alternate, and it's really good. I got a third support gem socket on the oil grenades now, so I actually put blind on there and guaranteed blind every time I threw my oil. Puddle is really good as well, and yeah, I'm happy. It's really a lot better than I thought, and I'm actually waiting for a bow upgrade. Right, I'm like level 55, no, 65 or 66 now, and the bow I think I equipped at level 45 that I got. That's something one guy from my community found. Pretty decent fizz bow, but not that great in the grand scheme of things. Crossbow, I mean, of course. And right now I'm sitting on a crossbow in my stash that has +3 proj skills and a big hybrid physical increase and I think 19 to 30 flat physical. And I'm hoping that when I get my next exalt, I can get a big fizz increase on the prefix there, and that will be my new bow. As it is right now, it's a slight downgrade over the current one. So it's not an option, but hey, you know, maybe if I just slot 2 runes for 40% increased fizz, it will already be better than my current one. I don't know.
Yeah, those end up not being actually that expensive now. They were really expensive like a week ago or a few days ago, but like the
Sorry?
What specifically, the socketing currency or the bows?
the socketing in the rune, like the iron rune is what you're talking about, the 20% increase physical damage in the
Yeah,
weapon.
exactly.
And the socket's more expensive than the rune, I think. Actually, I haven't looked at the runes in a while on on the currency exchange. 3 hoorays for the currency exchange, by the way, in this game.
Right?
That's one reason to love it, right?
To be fair, I'd have been real mad if it wasn't there.
Yeah.
What are you saying? You don't like it when they give you things and then take them away? Is that what you're saying?
That would have been...
That's the theme of this week, apparently. If you ask Reddit or anyone else around here, they talk about all the stuff that's taken away.
It's really funny watching Reddit going on about this when like the player numbers on Steam have held up much better than I thought, and I'm positive about the game.
Yeah.
I'm surprised how much the player numbers have held up. I was sort of expecting 15-25% drop off, which is not as bad as PoE 1 leagues get, but it's, you know, like significant, and it's kind of like 6 or 7% down on weekend 1, which was crazy. And also there's been very little bounce back to PoE 1 as well. Like the player base in PoE 1 dropped 50% midweek, and now it's down 40% on what it was previously. So some people have bounced back, which is always going to happen. Some people always prefer 1, but most people haven't, that left PoE 1 haven't bounced back to it yet.
Nice.
It's interesting. I didn't know those numbers, actually.
Couple thousand have this week, but that's like a couple thousand of the people that... So yeah, I'm quite surprised by that. I thought they'd be lower. I'm saying that as someone positive about the game, but yeah, Reddit's where that 2,000 odd people that have bounced back to PoE 1, Reddit's where they are.
That's I don't know why. I actually legitimately don't know why people got so mad at the like nerfs and bug fixes and things that have happened. It all seems very obvious and expected, and they outright told us they were going to do it before the league started, or before the game was launched.
And they buffed everyone else in that patch. Like my build got buffed tremendously in that because they made a universal buff to leech.
Yeah.
They universally buffed the dodge roll, and they universally buffed block chance. Doesn't affect me, but was still a really substantial one. So they went, okay, let's take a bunch of things that no one's really using these mechanics much at the moment, and let's buff them substantially. At the same time, we're going to take a couple of targeted headshots at things that need it. And yeah, some builds that weren't abusive got hit in the crossfire on that, but those builds that weren't abusing things like cast on shock, they're probably actually ahead because of the leech changes.
Which they also like outright said in like several interviews and whatnot. We plan on hitting things even week 1. And like clearly established that it's going to be a slower game and more of a struggle and meaningful combat. And if you find anything in the first week or probably month that seems really, really strong compared to everything else, spoiler, it's going to get taken away. It's going to happen more. It's going to keep happening. We need to adjust for that.
Yeah, I was rolling a cast on freeze monk, and I still am, and I think I actually understand a little bit about what's going on. I think a lot of people were experimenting with these spirit gems, and they were getting a feel for them, and they were really liking what they saw, but they were still they weren't on anywhere near optimized builds. They weren't really like blowing up screens with freeze or shocks and stuff.
Yep.
And so with the current iteration of the game, and it's tremendously overpowered energy, you're just sucking in so much energy from those meta gems. If you're kind of under geared, you're not anywhere near optimized yet, and that gets nerfed, it feels really bad. But for me, I had kind of, and people have commented on this, I think it's true, I've kind of already hit that crest a little bit, and my build was utterly unnecessary. It was a totally unnecessary amount of energy gain that I was getting. I was like flipping elemental invocation like 4 times in a second or something. It was actually in density. It was just ridiculous. So after the nerfs, I logged in, and people were despairing all over the place. And I was like, okay, let's see how it is. And I logged in, and it was virtually no change in terms of how I was playing. It's just, instead of getting 3 times the amount of energy that I needed, I was getting about 70 to 80% of what I needed relative to going like absolutely ballistic, maxed out. So, I feel like I was nerfed by like 5 or 10% or something like that. But a lot of people feel like they were nerfed. It was just completely destroyed their build. And some of the other builds maybe were affected more, for sure. But I think a lot of people were a victim of timing, just not having played enough. And then, they're nerfing the build because they see them, from the end game perspective, and it's just outrageous. So I think that's what's going on.
What I will say certainly, is if they plan to continue doing this, which I think they should, I like the quick response. I like the nerfing of this. I think it should happen. Respecking is going to become a problem because people aren't going to be able to sit on 1 million gold, and level 90 characters become real expensive to respec, and let alone the amount of people that I had who just like, oh, I have to make another build because I went to bed with 11,000 gold after doing some gambling, and then woke up and now my build doesn't function. And I'm like, well, that actually blows, because they're like, I can't kill white maps. I can't go back to tier 1 maps and kill things because my build doesn't work.
Yeah,
and
it's a little bit unfortunate that the only way to respec is just gold, the centralized thing that you can't trade by design, right? So you can't buy respecs. There's nothing else that you could respec with. Plus, you share your respec currency with a bunch of other very, very attractive gold sinks, like gambling, like you point out. And so it's very, very hard for people to have that on hand. And I understand what they're doing here, right? They really want to like add weight to the decision making when you decide to go for a certain tree. And I'm not even against the really high respec costs in general, but just in the context of this early access and them nerfing all the time, I would, and also wanting people to try out different things, it would probably be good to just tell people, hey, this is going to go away again, but you're getting really really cheap respecs. Or then again, like every time something like that happens, a patch, give people a free respec. But if they don't want to do that, they can just lower the costs.
You need a way to bail out of bad situations with respecking. It's like respecking can be a way of, my build's performing at 90% power. I've got a minor optimization to get it to 100%, but it can also be, I have just allocated Chaos Inoculation and Eldritch Battery at the same time, and my build is completely bricked by that mistake I made because I didn't know how they interacted. And actually, they don't. Yeah, they do brick in this, I think. But like, you need to have some way of bailing out. In PoE 1, you have plenty of ways to bail out. You get free respecs through the campaign. You get a bunch of other things. In PoE 2, the respec system is trash right now. It's not working. It's overly punishing, and it's also negligible cost for extreme abuse. Like if you find something that is like, because the more powerful your character is for your level, the less the gold cost hurts you, the less time it takes you to farm the resources for it. I think that this is one of the two worst problems in the game at the moment, is that the respec system.
I don't know if anything that you just said was right, or at least I don't agree with it. I feel like while leveling, there was no cost to respecking. At low levels, the respec cost was so low. I spec'd out like multiple wheels to try other wheels, and like the respec cost only becomes a problem at endgame when the price gets high.
Well, yeah, unless you respect your
yourself
build
out of gold because you've just spent it, because you've spent it on other things.
I'll
then
make
you
a
have to
comment.
Go and farm.
Sorry,
No,
I'll make a
please.
comment on this. I have a kind of a different angle on. I find it an interesting topic, the whole thing about gold, and how do you balance that to make it actually like fun and fulfilling? I already have mixed feelings about the whole gold thing anyway when it was introduced in the last PoE1 patch, but
Yeah.
I could imagine maybe, for example, let's say with the whole tier of rarity system thing, what if like gambling for gear would actually had a reasonably high chance of being a really good item? Like, what if it was highly weighted towards the higher tier rares, even in the early game? And maybe they could, they'd have to educate the player base in this sense, and couldn't do it right away. But
they'd also have to
could
raise
have
the prices.
That sense, yeah, you could have that sense of the weight of making your decisions, and those who plan out accordingly and stay with their build and play the game that way have a more opportunity to actually gamble for really, really high quality gear. Those who are wanting to experiment more are going to be forced to just kind of not really have the opportunity to gamble much. And that would require some sort of like heavy-handed education in the community. They would have to really inform the player base that's how their intention. But to me, that would be an interesting balance there. So you could have two different kinds of players, and they're both rewarded essentially for what they're wanting to do.
Any of those are like good ideas, but my real only concern is just that when they full brick a build, people are struggling to respec it. For me, it's not an issue, right? What I've done is I've just considered 1 million gold to be 0 in case something happens.
Also,
but like, I'm a degenerate. I'm 120 hours in already, plus making videos. Like, sitting on 1 million gold isn't going to be reasonable for a lot of people.
Fiscally responsible, Balor.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, this might trigger some
What's
people.
What's 1 million gold take to farm at endgame? Is it similar to PoE1?
I don't know. Like, took me like a day and a bit, a little over a day.
Sorry, if you guys could answer, what would cause a build to be completely bricked? How niche, how sort of one-dimensional would a build have to be in order for it to just be completely deleted anyway? I'm not actually aware of any build, but I think about it in the context of my build, and the build I'm using is like, it's multi-layered. So if they were to delete a certain interaction, I would still have 1 or 2 or 3 layers of efficiency at play. It really wouldn't like totally delete the build. There's like core component I'm using. Well, for one thing, I'm actually pressing like 6 buttons. So if they delete 1 or 2 buttons, I still have a build. So I don't know what people are doing. Are they doing like some like super hyper niche thing where they're just like 1 button build and then it gets deleted and they're done?
So yes,
that's a really fair point.
I'm sorry,
but
like that's not the way the game's designed anyway. So I'm gonna.
That's exactly it. It's some little niche thing, and they're obviously right to nerf it. The problem is the people who followed that build, who didn't even know it was going to get taken away. They should they have known better? Sure, I could say that, but like, also, they didn't, and it feels real bad to have your build taken away from you and not have a way to fix it, which won't be a problem for any of us because we're going to have gold. So I just think while we're making sweeping changes, the gold respec stuff should just be free. Just for the first, like, I don't know, month or two while we're doing huge balance things and you're like, oh, I could wreck the whole build. Like, just temporarily, that gold respec should be free.
So, like, if it's free, it needs to be on a time gate because the gameplay loop becomes, here's what the optimization loop looks like. If you have unlimited free respecs it becomes, oh, I'm about to do this boss. All right, completely respec the tree to something else. Spend 10 minutes doing it. Go fight the boss. Done the boss. Okay, now completely respec the tree back to my mapping setup. That becomes the optimization strategy. That is
True,
not
there
fun at
is
all.
like a-
That is so bad that I would rather the current bad situation.
Yeah, there is
What they
this
need,
cluster where you have increased damage against rare and uniques, and you just get that every single time before you're doing a boss, and then spec
You know,
out
you
of it
got
again.
2 weapon sets to
No,
set
you
that exact
respec the
thing up in one
defenses, like-
spec, right?
it's like you can
Yeah,
go, okay, I'm going to unspec all of my fire damage, put cold damage in, grab a whole bunch of freeze because I'm fighting a boss, and
So-
this is far beyond the weapon swap. Far beyond what you can do with weapon swap.
This is
You
is
can
almost
change
just
reach
semantic for
to
no point.
regen,
Like,
all this sort of thing.
Wait,
It
Bella,
used to
let
be like
Sir
this
Gog
in
finish.
PoE1. It used to. There was a period in PoE1 where the only way to beat Uberatsuri that was considered reasonable by anyone, and everyone that was a trailblazer on Uberatsuri did this, was to do. It's not exactly the same thing. It was the snapshotting shenanigans of the day, but it meant people would spend a whole bunch of time respecking their characters. Now, okay, that cost regrets, but that was fine because you were beating Uberatsuri and no one else could beat her, so you could easily afford them. But it meant that you were spending like literally every attempt 10, 15 minutes respecking your character for every time that you went and fought that boss. That was terrible gameplay loop, so bad that the status quo is better.
Fair. What do you want to say, Balor, in response to that?
oh, that's just that's like,
You can't
Like-
realistically
like-
imagine that people actually
like-
play like that because it's not fun. But if people feel pressured into it, like I can totally see
because
a
that
world
problem,
where-
because the problem that Sirgog just described is a theoretical problem that I don't think would happen. But even if it did, it's a problem you opt into and choose. My problem is the people who are forced into having broken stuff and just not having any solution. So there's a problem of people who can't play because a change broke their build, or people who are willingly optimizing the fun out of their own gameplay. It's just not my problem if you're going to do that.
Okay.
This
Well,
is the grand dilemma of weighted decisions versus player agency. I mean, this dilemma has been going on forever. They have to make the game design decision at that angle in every single system that they have, and we're going to have a difference of opinion, and that's okay. But I'm somewhere down the middle on this. I think the particular situation in the super early access, especially given that people paid for the game, it would be nice if they did a sort of like free respecs for certain situations right after. You get at least one full respec after a patch comes out. That would be nice at the very least.
That's
yeah,
fine.
they could even do it itemized so that you can save it for later and all that.
Yeah, you could itemize your respecs or whatever. Yeah.
72-hour cooldown I'd be for, but actually free respec. Like we've tried a scenario where the strongest way to play the game was to respec all the time. It was patch 1.1 of Path of Exile 1, and it was terrible. Like, it was terrible. Every Trailblazer, like the first 50 people that killed Uberatsuri, all of them did that because they couldn't get enough character power without it.
So a problem in a different video game 12 years ago that was experienced by the top 100 people on the server is somehow more of a problem than the literal thousands of people who had their builds bricked and couldn't play
I
the
want to
game.
quickly talk about that
doesn't
because
track.
I found Snoober's question here very intriguing. It's like, how hard can a build be bricked by a chance like that? Do you not have anything else to pivot into? Could you not like take a different skill and like use a different setup on your build? Or is it like, are those people really like not only out of gold to respec, but they're also out of skill gems and out of like uncuts to make a different build on the same tree?
I don't know what the specifics of the build were because I wasn't playing it, but enough people were playing it in my chat that I knew what the power level drop was. People that were doing tier 10 to tier 12 to tier 15-ish maps ended up back in Act 4 because that's the only mob that they could kill, trying to hunt rares to sell for gold so that they could respec their character. This is to the point now where you can go on TFT to buy a quad tab full of rares that are garbage so that you can vendor them. You can go spend exalts so that you can get your respec.
I honestly can't fathom a build that is doing something in tier 10 and then has to go all the way back into the campaign.
Yeah, it was a specific, really niche interaction where everything was procced off like super low level things, and then you didn't even have the ability to cast the high level shit, and everything was like built around it. It was a clearly broken thing that shouldn't have been a thing, right? But like it got put out, and then people copied it, and then a portion of those people went to bed with 0 gold left on their character, and then woke up to not having any function at all. And that's what I think is way more important to stop that from happening than it is to stop 50 or 100 people who want to be absolute degenerates at the top end from being like, oh, I'm going to respect my character. Okay, do it. Like, it's only temporary. I'm not talking about it forever. Just,
I think there's a better
while
solution.
We're doing this shit.
I think there is a better solution that doesn't cause either problem, and that is once per, maybe 72 hours real world time full respec. Because then you can't get yourself bricked.
Was this build, was it one that was obviously like an exploit or something that was clearly not working as intended? I really don't have any remorse for somebody losing a build when it's like that obvious. If it's that obvious,
it was doing
less
exactly
so
what it said on the tin.
In 3.23.
Okay, it's not that obvious. Again, I don't know what the build was, but you're making it sound like it was people are like hacking the game almost.
It was doing what it said in the tin. It just it was doing it to such a level that any of us experienced players would look at it and go, that's not gonna last. That'll be gone tomorrow. But like not everyone knew that, right?
Fair.
There's a bunch of PoE ones had a bunch of builds that you've looked at and gone, there's no way this is going to last the whole league. Like negative charges discharge in Calandra League. You look at that and you go, this is so clearly a bug, but it lasts the whole league. And so same with negative elemental conversion. Sorry, neg fizz to element conversion in Calandra. You look at that and you go, there is no way this is staying all league. And then it did. And yeah, Toxic Rain or whatever, the Vine Arrow is the next one to get nerfed. Like,
I must just have a different stance on this than other people. When I see a build, like I actually watched that video of Jungle, like I have zero interest in trying that. It's not even because I know it's going to get nerfed or because it doesn't look fun. It's just like, it's just kind of obviously not meant to be that good. So it's like, I'm almost like taking away some of the authenticity of the game if I choose to do a build that's like that ridiculous. You know what I mean?
There's like was it like 3 times as many players playing PoE 2 as there ever were playing PoE 1? Like a large majority of the people playing right now don't even come from Path of Exile. They don't know the things we know. Like I'm explaining trade etiquette to people in game. Like the things that we know and are very obvious, they don't know.
Yeah.
You're talking about like actual non-ARPG players, like never even played an ARPG.
Yeah, like
before.
non-ARPG or just non-PoE people. Like you look at that one build that you were talking about right there, but you come from D3 and D4. You look at that and go, great, that's fantastic. Let's go.
Yeah, you can't blame those people for liking something that they see on someone's stream who's obviously using some sort of mechanic that, as you say, it is clearly stronger than it should be. I think they're not that critical of what they're being presented. But without wanting to get stuck on this point for too long, I think we've all said our takes and stuff. And I think we all agree that some shape or form of free respecs would be in order from GGG if they want people to not straight up quit but continue testing. But I mean, everyone who quits now because of a nerf like that is going to come back for the first big content upgrade anyway. But one big change that they did recently in the patches that I want to quickly talk about is, how do you like the new buttery dodge roll, guys? I've been sliding in and out of hairy situations, and I feel like while I'm actually sort of sad that it's gone because it had a very hardcore feel to it to be able to get super stuck, I realized that it made me play more risky, and I enjoy it for that, because if I wanted to play the game correctly before they changed the dodge roll, I would have had to play very conservative and very carefully, like very much aware of what can happen next. And now I can just, like I said, slide in and out of dangerous situations. and I'm taking way more risks, and it results in more fun gameplay. But I'm curious about what you guys think about it. Did you actually prefer the previous one where it was more hardcore? Balor, you seem like you want to say something.
I can't imagine anyone preferred getting caught like that. It was so. It's good now. It's good now. You can still get caught. I've been caught since it, but it's
That's true. That's true.
harder
Very
to get
true.
caught now. That's all.
Yeah,
What about
the
you,
ability to roll
Sirgog?
over small monsters is huge. Like, honestly, I think that's the major part of it. Like, the number of deaths I had to beetles in Keth was just off the charts.
Yeah,
And
Beatles
now
and Kef were bad.
Yeah.
For sure.
I didn't mean to cut you off though. Please continue. And now?
Oh no, I was just saying, like, now it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
All right.
For me, I can appreciate the mechanic. I like it as what it does. I think it's terrific early game. When I saw that kind of thing like the dodge roll, my approach is basically I need to make a build that's powerful enough that I don't need to use that almost ever, except for like outrageously huge telegraphed attacks that, you know, clearly you better not get hit by this or something. And now I don't have dodge roll. I got dodge flicker, so just flicker strike the stuff for the most part, and it naturally dodges. I mean, sometimes it takes me halfway across the map and right back to the spot where I started, and then I didn't actually dodge it, but most of the time it turns out okay. Yeah, I actually don't use dodge roll hardly at all anymore.
Has
What do you
anyone
do on
tried
a single
Blink?
target?
I've not tried it, no.
No, not trying.
What's blink? Is that like the blink that you can get? You turn
Oh,
your dodge roll into a
spirit.
blink from a unique?
Yep. It
And how
costs
is it?
spirit, but don't put it on. Don't use it. Don't try it if you haven't.
Oh, I
The
thought you were
problem-
saying
you're
good.
No, well, that's the problem. If you try it, you'll be forever negative 60 spirit. You can't. Just don't put it on.
Wait, it eats your spirit and you don't get it back?
Well, you'll never take it back off.
Oh, that's what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's saying it's
That's how
like
good it
in
is.
Path of Exile 1, once you wear Mage Blood, you lose your belt slot.
Yeah, it's really good.
Somebody in the chat said I got a dodge roll to get increased evasion buffs. I almost said that. I was like, yeah, I may dodge roll like every 5 seconds just for more evasion, but that's about it.
Where do you get that from? Is that like
It's
a
just
natural
a
side effect?
passive tree notable.
Oh, okay,
30%
I don't have that.
30% increased evasion if you've dodge rolled recently, I think is what it is.
Okay.
I love the feel of the dodge roll, and this worked with the old one or the current one, but when you're dealing with boss directional slams, so I'm talking Jamunra's phase 2, or like the last phase chop that he does, a bunch of other bosses have it. Geonor has one. Like, just dodging out of the way of those very thin directional slams feels so good with a dodge roll.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always try to go diagonally past the boss, kind of, right? Like they're standing in front of me, and I'm just going like if the boss is 12 o'clock, I'm dodge rolling 1 p.m. or so, 2 p.m.
Yeah, and
Depends
I
on the
like how
boss.
it doesn't make you fast. I would have been really angry if dodge roll actually made you go 10% faster. Like
Oh.
Because
movement
then
speed.
you'd be rolling forever.
Yeah,
You just never run
forget that,
anywhere.
dude. I'm so glad this is how I know they're good at developing games. The fact that they knew not to let that happen.
And it
I feel
does
like-
move
Yeah, I don't know
you
if anyone
faster.
here has ever followed the speedrunning scene for Super Metroid, the old game from when I was younger. But there's this thing where you can gain 1 frame of movement, 1 frame, if you, sorry, not 1 frame, 1 pixel, if you directionally angle your weapon. And this is something that you can do on even a 30 hertz schedule if you're fast enough. No one can do it at 30 hertz, but like realistically, people are tapping L or R on the Super NES controllers at like 15 hertz whenever they're on flat ground, and it's just such a ridiculous thing.
It does technically make you faster, just in case anybody is curious, but only in the front half. So you can
Yeah,
like get
exactly.
out of an ability quickly, but then it slows you in the back half by the same amount.
You get a
That
debt
Probably
of
by
that.
even more because it's not faster. Like it's not the same speed as
It's the
walking
same speed.
either.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
I feel like you lose a little bit time if you only dodge roll versus walking.
I ran a bunch of races with some people with like rolling versus running with the same movement speed to figure it out. It's exactly the same.
Okay.
Because you were prepared to be mashing your space bar.
I was ready.
Time. Yeah.
I was ready to just be like, if dodge is quicker, I'm just gonna dodge forever. But it's not. It's not quicker. So we're
Breathes a
safe.
very
It's
heavy
fine.
sigh of relief when you discovered that.
I was real happy that it wasn't better.
Yeah. Jibby's makes a good point in chat though, that like if you're trying to race to a very specific destination, dodge rolling very close to the end will get you there first. But only by half of it.
That's a mechanic. That's a mechanic in the Sanctum stage 4 boss. That is literally a mechanic. You have to dodge roll into hourglasses that slow you down when you arrive, so you get there quickly, and then you progressively lose speed, but you actually gain more ground by dodge rolling up to him rather than running.
Ooh. Sanctum. I really want to ask how much people have ascended.
I did yesterday. Ironically, I'm now enjoying it. I hated it so much, and then once I got through it, I was like, "Oh, this is what I needed to do." Okay, and now I actually want to go back in because I made 70x when I went open the chest too. That good motivation as well.
Yeah, that helps.
Wow.
I like what I've seen of Sanctum so far. I did not like what I've seen of Ultimatum so far. Ultimatum was just overtuned like crazy when I tried it. It was fun, but
interesting.
it was the fun of losing repeatedly, not the fun of smashing things. Sanctum though feels like it will be good once I'm more powerful, but I'm not powerful enough yet.
Sanctum is better if you're highly knowledgeable about that mechanic and understanding like the vendor and the water and the rooms and all of that. The ceiling is way higher in terms of what you can achieve in there.
I thought Ultimatum
See, some
was
legend
easier.
got Temporalis run done.
I did.
The equivalent of Osin.
I did. Was it a chest?
Yeah.
From the Hitless run, and it looked gross.
Chronomancer theme, very solid looking.
Yeah.
Very, very narrow.
Had like, was it 4 seconds or something off all cooldowns, just flat?
2.00 to 4.00 divine ball roll.
Yeah. I'm like, that's
filthy.
Sounds strong.
Yeah, I'm yet to see everything that's got a cooldown on it, but like 4 flat seconds off cooldowns is pretty big.
There's a couple of support gems that give you huge power for like 5 or 6 second cooldown.
Yep. And you can get generic cooldown recovery.
Oh, by the way, what do you guys think about the skill gem system? I think most people have really positive things, especially about the only one support gem allowed for the whole build. That's amazing. Isn't that crazy how we love that? You would think we would hate that. Like, why are you taking away my player agency? I want to be able to use as many support gems as possible. But no, it makes for some really interesting decision making you have to do. It's restrictive, but it's really interesting, I think.
It's the right idea. Different. One may or may not be the right number, but it seems to be working.
I think for the builds where one doesn't feel like the right number, it's because half of your page is full of coming soon. I think that problem will fix itself when we get the rest of the gems.
Yeah, it hit the right number for me. I'm using like all the skills. I got almost all 6 links, and I'm only just now kind of running out of like gems, usable gems. I'm like 1 or 2 gems away from just cannot even use all the gem links, and it's just about perfect. It would be nice to have a few more, I guess, to keep choosing, but okay.
The questionable spot, I think, is like when you have not yet unlocked level 2 support gems. So when you've only got the rank 1 ones to choose from, that's at that point it feels a bit bad. I wouldn't mind rank 2 ones coming online a bit earlier to address that. But otherwise, I generally think it's good to have the Like, not to have the PoE1 situation where it's like, oh, okay, all your support gems are decided for you because PoB tells you what to do, and there's like, there's 2 or 3 choices you can make because these ones are close enough, they're equal in power, that you can go with your favorite.
Or it's just, here are the 4 skills you could use. By the way, it's Wed, Inspiration, Multi-Proj on everything. There you go, done. You're like, well, interesting. I don't know. I half expected it was going to be bad, though. I was like, that's when they told us that happened. I'm like, I wonder if I'm going to, I don't know how I feel about that. And then you play with it for a week and you're like, no, this is actually way better. It's so good.
Yeah, they have some pseudo copies of supports where it's like, okay, you feel like multiple projectiles, like the scatter shot, I think it's called, is the main one. You think, oh, there's going to be no alternative, but then there is an alternative. There's a wild something, I don't remember the name of it, but one that's like 20% for +9 proj in a circle, for +8 proj in a circle.
Yep.
And it's like, it does the same thing, just does it in a different enough way that you're doing a different thing.
What I find really intriguing about the whole support gem thing is that the support gems themselves don't have any like absolute stat requirements, right? They only add the 5 requirement, right? As in, you need multiples of 5 of every attribute to get maximum support gems of that color, but you don't have any attribute requirements, like say you need to have at least 40 int and 60 dex to use that skill gem, the same way that skill gems do. So support gems you can actually, when you're making a new character, and that's what I'm curious about on my second playthrough. I've already asked people how much faster you think you're going to be on your second playthrough, just because you know the campaign and the lore and where you have to go and at which point you got to be where and what the power spikes are for the different bosses and all that. But then also on top of that, you get all that power from the stashed stuff from your first character, right? Such as these tier 3 support gems. And you can get like higher level support gems, skill gems probably earlier, because you'll hit the requirements earlier than earlier than when you would normally naturally drop them. That's going to be interesting.
The most interesting bit is the support gems. If you have the level 3 uncut gem, you can just use support. Supports don't have levels.
Yep.
So you can use all the support gems on your ult right away.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I think it's gear that's still the biggest thing, though, for hand-me-downs. Like, what's the min level on Wanderlust? It is low, isn't it? Wanderlust is, like, really
10,
low.
I think it's 10.
Well, okay, so that would be 30 just for the 20% move speed. Like, you've got the best defensive stat in the game, and you've got it 20 levels early.
Okay.
I feel like Invoker is the best defensive stat in the game with that ascendancy point. One of the reasons I had a tough campaign is because I didn't take that ascendancy point on the second round.
Which one?
The one that basically turns half of your evasion into armor, effectively. So you scale evasion, and it's not even technically armor; it's just effectively damage reduction. So my character sheet says like 89% evasion and 85% armor on the character sheet, but it's not real armor. It's so funny because I can go into Sanctum and take a room that says you have no armor, and I still have damage reduction. So it's like just the best of all worlds.
Yeah, I've picked that downside as well in Sanctum and been like, yeah, I have jokes on you. I didn't have armor to begin with, so this is not a downside at all.
Yeah, you're rolling monk too, eh?
No, I'm Witch Hunter. I just had no armor from gear because of all evasion and energy shield items.
In general, okay.
Yeah.
Wait, that sounds like a class that's supposed to hybridize evasion and armor.
Witch Hunter?
Yeah.
No, I'm using Ghost Shroud, so I'm pretty sure I should go evasion ES.
Supposed to.
Well, I mean, I need more ES. I got a decent amount of evasion to get that. But then, since you're bringing it back to Sanctum, I didn't get to say my take on Sanctum earlier. I really liked Sanctum, and I just recently did my second Ascendancy, Ultimatum, which you can enter at which has its own level at level 38, and it's because people told me it's overtuned. I didn't go into it for the longest time because I didn't need my second Ascendancy. Everything was going well, so I only did it at level 58, so just 7 levels ago, and it was 20 levels over leveled. and I only got one downside on the ultimatum that affected the boss, which was 20% increased action speed, and it was miserable. I had the bird boss that does the weird physical whirlwind, and I have no idea how you're supposed to not die there if you actually do it on par. Because at 20 levels above, which probably like 40% more HP than I would have had if I did it on par, that thing obliterated me, and it moves so quickly that if you don't have move speed boots, you can't get out. It's impossible. And yeah, but luckily I made it despite this insane damage, even at 20 levels above.
I would suggest never taking turbo. Or
yeah, no,
load.
no shit, no. But the other choices weren't much better. I don't have it present anymore. I'd have to look at my VOD, but I took the 20% increased action speed for a reason, because the other choices didn't seem too attractive either. But I hadn't thought about it that there might be a boss that will be affected by it. And on bosses, you really don't want that. Making bosses faster is not a good idea.
Yeah,
Also, just that bird is
horrible.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Sirgog first?
Okay, yeah, that bird is just ridiculously overtuned. Like, I had multiple attempts. I was more stubborn than you. I went at, like, just before doing, not Doriani, but a couple of things before Doriani. I was like, right, I'm just going to do this, and I'm just going to fail it over and over until I get it, because failing can be fun. And every time I got the bird, it was just splat. Eventually, I got the Chimera, and the first time I got the Chimera, I crashed, and that was really heartbreaking. But then the next time I got the Chimera, I won pretty easily.
Right. Yeah. Is the Chimera the same one as in the Act?
Yeah, but it's a more hostile environment it's in.
Okay. So I
want to
enjoy
hear
the fight
Balor's
in the
take
Act.
on Sanctum, because
Yeah.
I was lurking in his chat once and he was tilting about it. So let's hear it.
So okay.
Here he goes.
I like Sanctum. I would rather do Sanctum than Lab. Right now, I would rather do Lab than the Sanctum we have, because the Sanctum we have is tuned to the point where to do your third ascendancy, you have to, if you can't just buy them off the market, you basically have to spend about 2 hours farming the first 2 floors over and over again to get like proper 75% honor resist to then be able to do the third one. And I don't mind if Uber Labs are a grind. I just did my Uber Lab today, a weekend, because I refused to buy a carry because I was like, I don't know, that would feel like a failure if it was my first character. I'll probably buy carries on other characters, but my first time I had to do it myself, right? So I only just got that done today. I don't mind if Uber Lab is a like grind, a work to get at, but getting 3 labs should be something pretty much everyone who plays and gets to that point where they want it should be able to do. You should. I don't like needing 2.5 hours worth of farming 2 floors to get enough relics to be like the whole thing's balanced. The third floor is literally balanced around having 75 res, and I just hate it.
Yeah, did you notice, like, one thing I noticed after trying to do Sanctum like 10 times or something before finally succeeding on the 4th lab, I got to a point where I was just ignoring the mechanics in the first 2 floors, because like you say, once you get the relics, you can just like run through fire and not hardly take any honor damage.
Yeah.
I was literally just
once you got enough of it, sure.
And so that was kind of nice. I mean, in a way, that is kind of nice that they balance it that way. If you're gonna make us do the floors, at least make it so we don't have to take all 4 floors equally seriously. That is kind of nice, I guess. It's a little jarring though. The first couple times I stepped into the 3rd and then 4th floor, it's like one monster breathes on me. It's like half my honor's gone. I was like, what in the world? That didn't happen last floor.
Have you got really good stuff out of the chests in Sanctum? Has that been your experience or just mine?
Nah, I got nothing.
Well, I think there's a deterministic chest at the end, the very 4th one. Either that or I got lucky, but what is it?
I'm talking earlier. I'm talking like my first ascendancy in Sanctum. One of my silver key chests was just like I got something that was nutty at the time. I might still be wearing it now, like in Act 6. If I'm not wearing it now, I only just got rid of it.
Maybe it gives higher tiers. I know you can target farm the prime chests. They're like the 3rd and 4th floor chests. They're labeled differently, and you can, like, if you want bows on a ranger, you can open the bow chest, and it drops out like 5 different rare bows or something. But I don't think it's guaranteed to be anything good. You probably just got lucky, Sirgog. Congrats.
I think you got lucky too.
I mean, to this day, I feel like the single luckiest thing that happened to me was buying a belt off of a vendor in Act 6 and wearing it all the way into tier 10s and selling it for 10x or whatever, when that was more currency than I ever had at the time.
Sounds good. So I got one thing that I dislike about the labs, and that is related to how we're, like, it's been presented to us and sold to us, marketed to us as a, you know, you get to pick your lab for each ascendancy that you want to do. Like, it doesn't matter whether you want to do this or that or the third one that comes out, which we all know is going to be Toda. Right? It already has the trial in its name, right? But the way that it works currently is you get the first one, and you have to do Trial of the Sekima, because if you don't do that, then you're waiting until level 38 until you get your first quest, Inscribed Ultimatum. And when you did your first ascendancy and you get to 38 and you get your first Inscribed Ultimatum to get the second ascendancy, you're still a bunch of levels away from being able to drop the Trial of the Sekimas of the appropriate level that would grant you the second ascendancy. So you're soft forced into doing Ultimatum as your second ascendancy, because if you don't, you have to wait for your second ascendancy. And even if you wait and you drop it, right, which is still an RNG sort of thing, you're not guaranteed that you get it dropped. But then if you fail it, you lose it. Whereas if you did the quest Ultimatum, you would keep that because it's the quest version, right? So you get to have infinite tries at it. So it's like you're really, really pushed into doing the Ultimatum one for your second ascendancy. It's not really a choice to do the Trial of the Sekimas instead, right? And then after that, it becomes sort of equal. But yeah, I wish they would all become available at the same time, which I know it's not feasible from a new player introducing them during the playthrough kind of point of view.
You bring up some good points. I think one thing, I'm trying to think, I kind of think I understand what they might be going for here. They want to introduce all 3 different trials, and there's an Uber trial, and maybe for the Uber one, you get to choose, right? And maybe it would actually look different. It wouldn't be hidden like, oh, it's got to be 4 floors, or oh, it's got to be, 10 ultimatum things. So it's been really convoluted.
And don't forget to bring the 3 keys with you that you didn't know you needed before you go to Ultimatum. Otherwise, you can't fight Trial Master, and then you don't get your Uber Ascendancy.
So, yeah. Well, yeah. So I'm just imagining, like, maybe they just kind of, you get the Sanctum one as part of the quest line, then you get the Ultimatum one as part of the quest line, then you do the Toda one or whatever as part of the quest line, and then you just never deal with it again until you see the brand new, like Uber Sanctum thing, and it's so obvious that this is what it's for, later on. That would be a nicer system for sure. And they would be enforcing you to do all 3 different trials that way. Maybe people wouldn't like that, but I definitely think it would be far more simplified and interesting.
I think the agency is like, I'd like it if they can get real agency in there. At the moment, we have this false agency where it's just, do it this way because it's the best, even though you can diverge from that. But it's just so clearly best to do it first Sanctum, second Ultimatum, third Sanctum, fourth, well, Sanctum realistically, because Ultimatum's way harder on everything. Like, it's pretty much every optimization focused player is going to do the same thing, whereas hopefully they can get it to the point that optimization focused players don't agree.
So very interestingly, I found Ultimatum way easier than Sanctum.
Well, outside of the Ultimatum bosses, that's true.
But I think it's because I'm Pepega and bad. And I didn't know Sanctum, and I didn't like Sanctum beforehand. But I've done a ton of Ultimatum farming, and also I knew what debuffs were good and what debuffs were bad. There's a few new ones in there, but they're all pretty similar. And I'm just like, oh, I know how all this functions. So it was just easy.
I've still never played Toda. I've never done a single Toda in my life. No, that's gonna
I'm
be fun.
curious
That
how
was
that's
so
going to
fun
land
for
when
a
it
little
comes.
while. That mechanic.
Man.
It's going to be
It
very
got so
different when
stale.
it returns into Path of
Yeah.
Exile 2, I believe.
Mm.
Sorry, you were
It
saying,
was such a.
Sirgog?
I was just saying, like, Toto was such a cool mechanic until we worked out how to get good at it. But when your combat prowess was still central because you didn't know what the fuck you were doing, that was such a fun mechanic.
Right. Have we mentioned the boss? Like, a lot of people said that they dislike the boss in Sanctum, the first floor boss, because of the soft enrage, where it like spawns these magma balls everywhere, or these magma eruptions, I believe. I didn't notice at all. Apparently, I killed it very quickly, despite having
Yeah,
like,
I've
felt
not
like I
experienced
didn't do
that.
damage.
I think I remember
Sanctum is
them.
very anti-melee in general. Unless you're able to Zerg stuff down, then it's fine. But
This is the
Yeah,
point where Balor does his anti-melee rant. The entire game's anti-melee.
I mean,
I mean that in particular, though. I mean, could you
this
build a? Yeah, go ahead.
this game's worse for anti-melee than PoE1 was.
Really?
When I play a caster, I can spark and walk around the screen. I
Oh,
can
true.
curse and do my flame walls and everything on my ranged minion build. If I'm on a bow build or a crossbow build, I can walk while at range and dodge things. And then you jump on a monk or a warrior and you have to walk up to a monster and then literally stop to attack. Not only do you have to be within stick range, you also can't move.
So while that is true, there are a number of boss abilities that go against that. Like, for instance, Genor's slash that does the icicle cage. That is much easier to dodge if you're at point blank range with him than it is at long range. The thing is, of course,
And I just
range
walk
characters
in.
can be. Like, yeah.
Just walk into range, and then I get to still move while attacking.
Leech is the issue here. Leech should be Melee's answer to this. And maybe give it, and maybe the Blood Mage as well as the exception. But Leech should be the thing that's like, okay, melee. I'm a melee. My unique strength is my ability to leech. None of you range people can have this, and you can then. I can endure things you cannot, but they keep giving leech to other people that shouldn't have it.
I get nothing out of leech. I tested it. I rolled it on my ring and at one point I had it on my weapon, ring, and gloves. Post buff to leech, I still had it on one slot, and it did nothing for me. I've just gone all regen and mana on kill in particular. Mana on kill is like by far the most recovery I can get on my build, but that's because I'm clearing really fast. So
the leech for me as a blood mage was the difference. Like when they made the patch, it was the difference between the ascendancy being a net positive and a net negative.
So the leech is fixed now?
Yeah, it feels impactful. It's not overwhelming, but it is solid. If I throw an unleashed fireball and hit the boss with it, I notice my life goes up faster than it would have even without spending all that life casting a fireball.
All right. Because that's the one ascendancy that I really wanted to play. Like, I mean, obviously a lot of options seemed really cool before I went into it, but I knew I had to go for one. But I always regretted I didn't try the Blood Mage. So it's good to hear that that one is not bricked anymore.
Like everything is on my list.
I think it's still underperforming. I think it's still underpowered, but it's not crushingly bad. The way that it was, like when I had to Zelmarath, the middle of Act 2, the Titan boss, I had to unspec Sanguimancy to be able to beat Zelmarath because I needed to spend like 4,000 mana in that fight, and I could not afford to spend 4,000 life, even going in with full life last charges. That was a catalyst to unspecking Sanguimancy.
That would be rough. I feel like I cheated. I'm gonna struggle whenever I play a build that isn't minions.
That's
I don't even think their damage is actually that OP. It's that their damage is all automated and just happens while I'm at range and dodging things. That's gonna be an adjustment. I haven't had to do anything. I haven't had to put any work.
yeah. You're gonna have to get accustomed to doing your own work. But it also might be cool to not have all that clutter on the screen and to actually like see.
Being able to see the ground will be a good positive.
Yeah, I think there's one more aspect of the patch that we haven't really covered. And then there's a couple more specific topics, but we talked about the heavy-handed nerfs, which are a good thing, and we think we need to have some respecs, but other than that, that's great. And then we said that the new dodge roll is a salvation, but also they buffed drops in the patches, right? We have some really good stuff dropping from big rares and bosses now. Do you feel like they're in a good place now, or do you think we need more adjustments? Valor.
I think they seem pretty good. There's some shenanigans going on, but that's just PoE players. I don't know if there's anything we can do about that.
What are they doing?
So the first time you kill any act boss, there's a decently big rarity and quantity buff to what they drop. So what's happening right now is that high level players with a ton of rarity all over their gear are getting new characters their friends make, or picking them up for money or whatever, and carrying them through all of the campaign bosses with the rarity culling them all and making 100 or 200x an hour. But
wow,
outside of that abuse case, I think they're really good.
Well, what each campaign boss is dropping 30x or something?
8 to 12 on the ground. This is a full rarity character giving the first time kill buff that you shouldn't be able to have that buff for, right? They've got a few hundred of rarity and whatnot, and then 2-player quant, and then they're just not supposed to be able to get there. But
yeah, those things shouldn't multiply with each other. They should maybe be able to coexist.
At the same time, though, they're also splitting it in half because you need 2 people now, and it's also boring, and you get no XP, and you get I don't know if I really care that it's not. I wouldn't do it. I'd rather just go kill my bosses. And so for everyone else, I don't know, it feels a lot better for me. I'm consistently getting waystones and currency from actual bosses, and
it's been good for me too. I was already kind of ramping towards the end game, the high tier maps. While after that buff came in, I only discovered that they buffed loot after the fact, a full day later. People were saying "What do you mean they buff loot?" I thought my drops were just getting better because I was kept progressing upward. I was like, "Oh, this is red tier map drops. Wow, the loot really is better. I heard it was better up there, so this must be what it's like." But I guess it was a compounded buff, going up higher and buffs at the same time. And I guess I didn't really think about it much, but yeah, I guess walking out of your average, tier 14 map with average map with 2 or 3x or something, if it had a mechanic on it, at least, if it has a breach or delirium or something.
Yep.
I got a question for you guys relating to loot. When was the first time you got a level 2 unidentified rare?
I think it was
level
a campaign.
2 unidentified rare.
Yeah, it was in the campaign, tier 2.
Something like that.
It was either Act 5 or 6. It was definitely campaign.
Back end of the campaign, cool. Because I haven't got one yet, and I'm middle of Act 6, and I've got a bunch of incidental rarity on gear. But
I think it was either late 5 or early 6, somewhere around there. There was only 1 or 2 in the campaign. It's not super common.
People are asking in chat what a tier 2 is. They're rare items that are biased against terrible mods. It's like a sanctified fossil in PoE1.
It is
It's
really powerful, by the way. Like anytime I see even like a tier 3 or tier 4, I pick it up, even if I think the base is garbage, just because it's like, wow, those rolls quite often are really good.
All it's doing is bringing the weight up, like the grave crafting was doing.
Yeah,
that's what it's doing. It's bringing like the floor up and
The
just being
height,
like,
yeah.
well, the more tiers it gets, the less of the bottom stuff is able to roll.
Mhm.
So it can still be very bad items. They don't have to be
Yeah, it
synergetic.
happens, yeah.
They don't have to be like, they don't have to be an item that makes sense or rolls you would want. But like the bottom tiers are just getting cut off progressively more and more.
Yeah.
And so
it's
the
just
chance of it being a good item becomes better and better.
slightly.
It's a great system.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
no,
it's going to work
I
for
was
loot
wondering when
filters.
you were getting this.
Yeah, as soon as we get Filter Blade up and running, it'll be great.
Yeah, trying to loot after a breach is, man.
I've been editing Never Sinks Filter with filtration, hiding bases and whatnot. I have to remember how to use filtration that I haven't used in like 8 years, but it got updated. And
Oh,
so,
yeah. Hey, Valor,
so
have you removed the sound file yet? Have you had to remove the sound file from this game?
no,
Not yet. Not dropping that much loot, huh?
not. It hasn't been quite that annoying yet.
How many game crashes have you guys had? I've had like 50 or
God.
100 or something.
Every 2 or 3 hour session, I have like multiple ones. It's like at least one per hour. Like sometimes it's just that the visual aspect of the game freezes, right? But I can
Yeah.
still hear my character move in the background.
Yeah.
And I
That's
have
a
to
weird one.
Alt F4. And sometimes it's like a direct eggs pop-up bug that freezes the entire game, where I also have to Alt F4. But yeah, it's but I honestly don't even want to complain about it because early access, no bitching, right? But
It's
yeah,
just
I
still
hope that
funny
they
though.
managed to patch that out quickly.
I've had less than that.
I don't think I've crashed in days.
One of
I've
my
already crashed
viewers
3 times
actually
today.
has like the same problem that Lily has, where you get like every once in a while, like every couple of days or once a day, you get like a full-on system freeze, where the game just freezes the entire system and you can't bring up the task manager, you can't do anything, you just literally have to pull the plug and start the computer again.
No, every time I've been able to just hit the escape key and it takes the game out. I don't even have to Alt F4 actually.
I had crashes and had to reboot the client probably every like half hour to 40 minutes on day one. And it was because I was trying to level in a party. I was like, I did like 26 hours, I think, on the first day of stream. And like, I didn't even get to maps because we were crash over and over again. Crash. When I started day 2, the people that I was leveling with were like, yo, we want to start leveling? I just got up 2 and I was like, I think I go on my own. Because the people who aren't in a party aren't crashing and we're crashing. So we should just split. And then from then on, it's been pretty much okay for me somehow. I don't know how that's happened because my computer is not good. So I've just lucked into the correct like hardware setup to not encounter any of these crashes somehow.
Yeah.
Worst issue I have is going through portals sometimes. I find that like while you're on the load screen, my CPU will run extremely high. Like I'll hear my PC's fan go berserk, and I was checking it with hardware monitor and the temperature's going high. Like not worryingly high, but like at the, this is like I'm overclocking, but I'm not actually overclocking. And then yeah, I'm not sure what causes it, but that's the one problem I get. And every now and again, like especially with tomorrow being such a hot day here in Melbourne, I'm probably going to take it easy because of that.
All right, that's why you're going to the beach. You just don't want your PC to die. Secret.
I'm going to the beach because it's like because it's the first. When's the last 40-degree day that we've had here? 104 for you Americans. It hasn't been in ages. It's been like, and I actually like this weather. I'm that mad person that likes it. Maybe not quite 40, 36, 37. I'd prefer.
I'm in Queensland. 40 is excessive. Like
Queensland's more oppressive. You got more humidity than we do. We're dry heat. I find 37 oppressive in Brisbane. The last time I was there. I was there in 09. I was younger then, and I remember 37 feeling, oh my God, this is oppressive. I made the mistake of walking to my friend's place from the city, and that was a screw up.
Damn. Yeah, so I wanted to say about the currency thing, like right after the patch dropped, like with the currency, it was instantly noticeable whenever I did a big boss in the campaign. I was in the middle of the campaign still. So like my second playthrough in Cruel after normal felt obviously a lot better in terms of drops. Because when I did Act 1 originally, I started in hardcore, right? And I made it to Act 2 before I died. But I didn't get a single regal the entirety of Act 2. Or no, not a single exalt, that's what I was saying. Because I heard from people like multiple exalts for during Act 1. By the time you're at end of Act 1, you're gonna definitely have multiple. And my first one dropped literally from the Act 1 boss. And I almost missed it because it doesn't instantly drop. And I poured it out. But yeah, and then after the patch, been getting one good big currency item from every boss on average, right? Like sometimes you don't get one, but then sometimes you get an exalt and a regal or something like that, and it feels good. I just wish I would have held back on using so many exalts and regals on poor items, just trying to make better leveling items, because it's the same as in PoE 1, obviously. You want to save those for the really good ones to have a chance of the best outcome. But then, yeah. Didn't want to take away from my first time playthrough, like first experience, right? Didn't want to. What do I want to say? Yeah, I just wanted to fully immerse in it and use all the options at hand to make my character as good as possible, especially while I was still in hardcore, obviously, instead of hoarding for later, which is what I'm inevitably gonna do in the future. And then, yeah. I was wondering, do you have like a favorite boss in the acts or in general in the game so far? Like a boss fight where you're like, this is really cool?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Who wants to go first? Valor?
Mine's gonna upset people. I'll go last.
Okay. Sirgog.
Okay, coming in position 3 is Doriani. Coming in position 2 is Viper Napazadi. Because that fight was so exciting to go into it without Chaos Res and just having to work it out. And then just, yeah, like I failed that a lot of times. And position 1, absolutely above everything else, Jamanra, Act 2. The final boss, not the Abomination, not the earlier version. All bosses I failed multiple times, and that's a big part of why I like them. Is that they were tuned at a level where you always felt like that it was fair. You always felt you were getting closer, but it was out of reach the first time you tried it. Worst boss, Belbala, because of the gimmick.
Yeah,
Right.
I also failed a number of bosses in the campaign, but I don't. I'm just not much of a bosser, so I'm never gonna care that much about him. But I do like the witch boss, that the bog or something. She rides around on the broom. That was so funny to me. I just cracked up the first time I saw it.
Dog witch with the motorbike.
Yeah, it was so cool, dude. And then I'm like palm teleporting to her constantly, like, get off your bike, come here. It's really funny. It's more of a fun one than like a great design or something.
No, I also thought that one was really cool. Yeah, there's many to pick from. I think I want to highlight unfortunately it was a little bit bugged, but like the Colossus thing, like the Titan dude in the underground Valley of the Titans. So Kitava-like, but then different from Kitava, and also I thought it was outside of the bug with the hitbox when he did the knife swipe, and like people who were standing completely outside of the diagonal that he was drawing were still getting one shot. That was a little bit, wonky. But other than that, I thought it was a very fair fight where you could really learn it, and I got progressively better at it, but it still took me like 10 times when I got there. I died a couple of times, but then eventually, once I learned everything, I felt like I could do it almost perfectly without taking any damage at all if I were to practice more. Because it's so mechanical, and you can, there's such clear safe spots for everything. that yeah, I thought it was a joy. But I pretty much only said that one because I didn't want to repeat any of the other ones. I thought your picks were also really good. I think Jamandra is also extremely fun. Feels very epic. Unfortunately, already the first time that I went into Act 3, I felt like every single boss in Act 3, except for the monkey that tries to slap you with the column, every single boss in Act 3 was easier than the bosses in Act 2. But that's a tuning thing, or maybe also a thing with the power curve of my character, right?
Yeah.
Might be different for different people. Although I'm curious, was your cruel playthrough also on average easier than your normal playthrough, guys?
Yeah.
Off the
No,
planet easier.
Better character, but then more tools.
Yeah, that's the thing.
As soon as I got
No,
Frostfall.
I thought my favorite boss was going to upset people, but maybe it won't. Viper was my favorite in the campaign.
Viper is extremely fun.
Purely,
Yeah.
I died to it the most. I had 0 chaos res. I had no recovery of any kind except a life flask, and but like, I don't know. She was just really cool. Like, she killed me a whole bunch, but eventually I got better at it. I figured out how to dodge. I figured out the patterns. I figured out when to stand, when to roll, and then like I felt real good when I killed it after
It
banging my
feels
head
so
against that
good.
wall for half an hour.
Yeah, when
Yep,
you get the dodge rolls off perfectly, there's this kind of dinosaur or like lizard man with a big axe, with big fiery axe, in this wine cellar like environment. I don't know. You know which boss I mean? I have no idea what he's
No.
called or what's the name of the area, right? Bawak. Chat knows it's Bawak. In Machinations. But yeah, that one wiped me so hard the first couple of times that I went into it because I played it completely wrong as a range, like trying to stay away but the moment I embraced melee and just tried to completely 100% get the timings on the dodge rolls right, it was so easy to not take damage ever in that fight. Really, really cool. And then also, yeah.
I'm real surprised that everyone else liked that Viper fight. I thought everyone was gonna hate me for it. And like even chat is like, yeah, no, the Viper fight was really cool. And that makes me so happy. Because that means they don't have to dumb everything down. People do like hard stuff. Here's the weird bit though. I've probably hundreds of times on stream and at least 24 times on this podcast mentioned how little I care for bosses. And how much I am just a map clearer. Like, I just want to go blast maps. I'm gearing up to bossing. It's so much better in this game. I want to be a bosser. I want to do all the endgame bosses. I want to farm them. I want to do stuff. I said I just did Uberlab today for the first time. Did that completely blind. I had no idea what that last boss was. And even though I had never seen it before, it indicated to me what my job was. And did I barely make it to finish my job in time? Sure, I barely made it. I could do better again next time. I did have quite a bit of honor left over though, but like I still like barely made certain mechanics because it took me a second or two to recognize what was going on, but it was all indicated to me. Every boss I fought in this entire game is better than every boss I've ever fought in PoE 1.
Except Belbala.
I mean,
drink invisibility potion, hide in the corner, fill the room with gas, and you've got to work out what to do.
Yeah.
Isn't that like just Chimera?
It was just Chimera. To be honest, the only reason that one didn't cause me a problem is because I was like, I don't understand what's going on after I died to it like 3 times, and chat told me what to do. And I was like,
Same.
Stupid invisible thing. Right, okay. And then once you figure that out, it's fine.
I just killed the boss before he did that phase, I think. Or I
OP.
accidentally stood into it. But like I felt like I have that problem a lot actually now in Cruel, where I'm like, okay, I get to fight these bosses again, right? And I get to learn the mechanics more, but then sometimes I kill them so quickly that that they don't do their deadly move, and I feel like I'm not learning. Yeah, keep it going. I gotta answer the door apparently. But yeah.
There were a couple bosses I found harder in Cruel though. I don't know about you guys. I found most of them were easier. Draven was harder in Cruel for me. Maybe I was just really powerful when I did Draven the first time.
Which one's
A lot
that?
of people. Act 1, one of the 2 crypt bosses, the male. So there's the male and female. There's the married pair in the crypt. So it's has the all the Crystal King style attack, frontal attack that fires off a whole bunch of projectiles that you dodge between, and also summons in his wife at times to cast a sort of spiritual successor to Lycia's blast from tier 17s in PoE 1.
My hardest campaign experience was the Dreadnought, and it's cruel getting through that map. I must have died 30 times on that floor before I got through it. Really
okay, I
brutal.
died twice in that zone.
Yeah, well, that was one where they didn't give you the checkpoints hardly at all, and I just felt like I was corpse running it. But you can't even do that. And then I get to the boss, which is the thing that everybody is afraid of, and I like one shot him or two shot him. I can't remember. The bosses were fine for me.
Better have one shot him. I just spent like 18 or 20 hours writing a guide to him. When I get back to him in Cruel, I better one shot him.
I fought him the first time and killed him with my back against the wall. Like he died and there was nowhere left for me to dodge. Like if he had another big like forward hit, there was nowhere for me to go. Like I was up against the wall. I killed him and was like, I guess I passed the DPS check. This is the amount of DPS you need for this fight and no less.
It was a recovery check, not a DPS check.
I mean, it's a full DPS check, isn't it?
No.
I assume if
No
the
DPS
lava
race
reaches me,
elements at
I
all.
will die.
The DPS race boss is the molten area. That's an actual hard enrage.
Am I thinking of a different boss? I'm thinking of the guy with the long hallway where the lava like chases you down.
Oh yeah. So that's we're talking Act 2 boss.
Isn't the Viper
Jamal.
boss and a DPS check?
No, Viper's Viper DPS means that you have to deal with less difficult phases. So it is powerful, but there's no DPS race element to it. The compression of the arena is based
a
upon
soft enrage then.
HP thresholds.
Yeah, it's just
Impression of the
HP
arena. You're
threshold.
talking about the guy in the molten thing, where the lava makes the arena smaller and smaller.
I was so close to the DPS threshold for that when I first got there in Act 3. I was like, all right, I'm just going to give this a bunch of tries, and then I started getting really close. Like I get him sub 5%, but I would be having to be really reckless to his moves, and I'd often die to his Earth Shatter. That was fun, but eventually I was like, no, I do need to go on further and just come back with one more gem level, and then it was easy.
Okay, for me there was quite a bit more missing. I was like, I tried him twice and got him to like 60%. I was like, okay, this is not going too well. But yeah, Merc's struggle bus early on is real. I feel you're so dependent on items and passives, but later on I feel it's quite good. But yeah, we'll see how it is in maps. I can't wait, honestly, to experience that. Is there any from those guys who are in maps already, Balor, Snoo, you've been playing a lot. Is there any sort of advice that you can give to Sirgog and I before we get in there? Is there something that you wish you would have known before you first got into maps?
Yeah, the quest is slightly misleading. It tells you have to do 10 tier 1 maps, and then it tells you have to do 10 tier 2 maps. You don't. It's or higher. It's or higher.
Okay.
It's always been or higher. So you can just actually progress up tiers if you can maintain them. It's fine. The one other thing that isn't pointed out in game anywhere, there are res penalties after the campaign. The first time you go into a tier 6 map, you will get another 10%. And the first time you go into a tier 11, you will get another 10%.
Tier 6 and tier 11?
Yeah, so yellow and red.
Okay, because I was told that the rest penalty is based on like area level. Like every 10 full area levels is
Well,
minus
it
10
is.
all
It's a
res.
dynamic thing. Like if you go
Yeah.
back into tier 10, you have more res.
So you will in your hideout will represent the highest you've been in ever,
Okay.
not the last one. So like even if I go run a tier 1 map right now and I go back to my hideout, it'll still have the res that I would have had in a tier 16
Yeah.
or 15, I guess, right? But if you like work to res cap and you're in white maps, which you don't need to res cap, by the way, for white maps at all. I wouldn't even bother with res capping until red maps personally. But if you did,
Oh.
you would then open up your your character sheet and be like, why am I down at 55 on everything? What's going on? And there are res penalties past the campaign. So it's a total of negative 80 to all except chaos, which I prefer to 60, including chaos, actually.
Mm.
Well, here's a piece of advice for you guys. The boss nodes are the ones that can very reliably drop more maps and maps that are actually higher tier than what you have. And if you blow your high tier maps on random nodes that don't really have mechanics and or bosses, you can actually burn yourself out of map progression. So what you do is you run the lowest maps you have for the just the maps that are on the trail that don't really have anything to offer. They typically don't drop anything anyway. You burn the low ones there, and then you use the higher ones on the boss, assuming you can kill the boss. And then you can also 3-to-1 maps up in the forge in your hideout as well. But you can actually run out of maps doing that if you do it too aggressively, and then start wiping on stuff.
I do that similarly. I constantly in my inventory have 2 tiers of maps. The tier I want to be in and the tier 1 tier below that. And so I will run, like right now, I will run 14s when it's like a travel map that didn't have a mechanic on it or anything cool. And then I'll actually pull out garbage white maps for the towers because there are no mobs in them. And burning my high tier maps for those towers feels like a massive waste because it's empty. There's like a fifth of a map worth of mobs in there.
Yeah, I'm to a point where I'm only picking up tier 12 and above. And yeah, I use tier 12s and 13s on the towers and sometimes the white ones, and then 14s and 15s on the good stuff.
And my life for a map stash tab, please. It's insanity. I would need a map stash tab, please.
Yeah, can someone confirm? Like someone told me that they've already said that the map tab will be adapted to work for tablets eventually,
Yeah,
but they
it will.
just haven't gotten around to it. Okay.
Apparently, if you look inside, if you look in the game, like I didn't know this, but if you look in game at your stash tabs, there's an option. Well, I think you right click your list of tabs and it will show the ones that are unavailable because they're not yet in PoE2. And apparently, the map tab is different.
To the little setting wheel up the top where you can say hide unavailable. You can untick that and look, see a divination and a map and a fragment and the fossil is there as well.
Yeah.
Don't know why that's there, but it's there.
Well, because Endgame is basically Delve.
Kinda.
Oh, when you Balor, when you do like the citadels or whatever, it's always say map failed, even when you do it and get the reward.
I haven't noticed.
Like I get the thing and then it says
attention.
map failed.
Yeah, I heard that these towers are extremely bad layouts, and like I heard from some people they actually always use tier 1 things in there because there's such narrow pathways and monsters shooting projectiles. Apparently,
I only use tier 1s because I can't run them. Because literally single skeletons can't get through any of the doorways. They're just the minions are stuck behind every doorway in every citadel. So I have to clear with SRS.
Build.
Yeah. So
it's so easy for me to just go through there. I don't mind at all.
It's fine because I just run low tier maps in them. But honestly, with their layout being trash and their area being empty, it literally doesn't need to be a map. When I get to a lost tower, just let me put my emblem thing in it.
Yeah, I hear you. I can foresee a lot of complaints about that tier layout. People are going to get angry about having to do that over and over and over again.
Yeah, like let me get to the lost tower and then just be like, ha, there's my tablet. Done. Or if it insists on being a thing, put a map boss up the top that drops proper map boss stuff, and then I'll I'll be happy about that too. Do either one.
That would be a decent solution. Make it a boss map automatically. Yeah.
Anything else that we need to pay attention to with mapping? Do you feel worthy? Otherwise, I have another question that
ground effects.
Use your precursor tablets right away. Just use them. They're really good, especially the plus level ones. They'll help you get more map returns and whatnot. They're great. Just use your tablets. I started saving them for like the first 8 or so tiers. I was like, oh, I won't use any of these. I'll save them until I've got. Nope. Silly me. Use them.
Get ready for some serious burning ground. That's another thing.
Burning ground still hurts.
Is that something that I have to expect on every map, or just? I mean,
you'll roll it.
Roll them.
Roll it.
If you roll.
Oh no, I've been re-rolling them with chaos. If it has burning ground, I'll spam chaos until burning ground goes away. Yeah.
You have that many
Just
chaos?
forge it up.
I have like 4 total chaos.
I'm on 15s. There is no up.
Or sell it then, or something.
I'll up. Up.
And just chaos spam them. What else am I using chaos on?
Wait, would that be a good thing to Val and do a 216? Maybe. We should try that.
How have your Val results been, guys? Because I heard like from people that like getting nothing and just the corrupted tag is like a very common outcome now. Is that just anecdotal, or can you confirm?
I've had good outcomes overall on it. I actually valed all my gear today.
I haven't valed enough maps, so not sure.
I was missing like 18% lightning res from Cap, and I literally valed my boots 23% lightning res implicit. I was like, oh, the dream. It was a good pair of boots too. It's amazing. Yeah. I was going for move. I figured, okay, let's get some movement speed on here, and then it's 23% lightning res. I was like, wow. And suddenly I'm like comfortably capped at like 85% plus. So even if we get elemental weakness map, it's still like reasonably safe. It's nice.
Yeah, I've been very hesitant. Like, I think the first time around when you get in the story, you get the free corrupt from the bench. I think it's
first and second time, yeah. You can save them forever, by the way. You don't need to use them.
Oh, you can go back there anyway.
Yeah. Save them. I saved mine, actually. I forged, I had a really good weapon, and I forged another one for like profit crafting or to beat my current, and I basically matched it almost 1-for-1. I said, all right, well, this is the opportunity then. We're going to take one of them and throw them to the blender, and I got an extra socket. So it's the winner. Right there. I mean, that's the game working as intended. Exactly, I think. You're rewarded for all kinds of angles. You're rewarded for crafting, and you're rewarded for taking the risk, and you can comfortably take the risk because you crafted. And it's as it should be.
You have any Valor success story, Sirgog? Oh, sorry, but like quickly.
I've only looted 4 of them. So
okay, you're saving them for big purposes.
I used one. I was in a similar situation to Snoo where I'd just gotten an upgrade, but it was only close, and so I was like, "All right, I'll YOLO the old item." And
did your Valor have an interesting result?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It was just a boring one. I got an uninteresting result.
That's why I asked. I had to ask because when the topic shifted to Valorps, you were sort of like leaning in, and I was like, "Oh, he's got one." But yeah, I also didn't get anything. I just want to say, as a PSA, what I read is, when you get your first 5 link on a gem, that you should like, if you have a backup medium jewelers and you can make another one, then you should try and Chaos Orb that skill gem, because you could get +1 link, so you could get an early 6 link gem that way. If you're lucky, but that's why I'm waiting with my.
I mean, you should also do that just to get a 5 link.
Should I do it right now for a 5 link? But only if I get backup jewelers to make another one.
So but you can. It's a 1 in 8 chance of success. You can just unlock a gem, put a lesser jeweler on it, and val it. 1 in 8 chance of success. Right now, you would have to fail 32 times in a row to have it be the same price.
Yeah.
Like so it's a 1 in 8. You have to fail 32 times in a row before it's the same price. So you can get many 5 links cheaper that way.
Very, very far out of standard deviation unlucky.
Downside, you can never turn that one into a 6-link, so you will need a new one later. But that's fine, whatever. You can level them once they're valed. You can still level them up with just a higher one, so that's fine.
What about quality?
And you can't quality
quality
them either.
Yeah, that would be my question, because currently my explosive grenade has already +5 quality, so I probably wouldn't val that one, but I'd make a backup one and val the backup one to get the 5-link, and then I'd keep the quality one for later to make that my 6-link eventually.
The last thing is with those valed things, because of their price, I'm also telling people to val all their like utility shit as well, because the utility stuff is so strong. Like, I hadn't noticed until someone was like, why haven't you put the extra links on your backup things and like qualitying them? And I went and had a look at all the quality on like all of my backup things, and then the people I was playing with as well, all of our like utility or support things, and quality on all of those seems great. So yeah.
One of my skills is unbelievably strong. Basically doubles it's an AoE melee skill, melee strike skill with AoE, and it has 4 range, melee range, and the quality gives it an additional 4 melee range. What?
Okay.
What the hell?
We want that.
Yeah, then you stack AoE and suddenly your melee attack's like half the screen on that ability. Really bizarre. Only one is like that though. Everything else is kind of a little more reasonable or predictable. But
I have to look at that quality on my gems, and I haven't looked at it yet. I only looted one GCP, so
that one.
If I go back in time, I would have spent my first few exalts on gem cutting.
Like my offering is a 6-meter base radius, and quality on it is 2.4, which still seems great, right? Like that's a good amount to have it go 4 and then 4 again. That's an insane quality.
That's not balanced. Yeah, I don't know why they did that.
Like going from 6 meters to 8.4 is a pretty damn good quality already.
Yeah, the ability in question is Tempest Flurry, in case anyone looks it up.
You just convinced me to check some qualities on my gems.
Yeah, I found a GCP earlier. That's why I have 5% quality.
Oh, and some of them give you nothing, by the way. Like Ghost Dance gives you literally nothing. It says nothing on PoE3B, and I qualityed it anyway because like there's no way this gives me literally nothing. And then it was literally nothing.
It's probably a coming soon kind of situation, right?
Quality coming soon.
Yeah. I realize we're already quite a bit into the podcast. We don't want to go too far over 2 hours, which is still a moment out. But I wanted to extend the question. How I just asked for your guys' advice for us just getting into maps, but maybe even in a broader context as players who have played PoE 2 already for 7 days, and you know how several content creators made tips and tricks videos before the early access was even out. I don't know whether you've made one or not, but if you were to make one now, like, what would you include there definitely for new players after having played? Like, what are your takeaways from the... Yeah. If a good friend was going to get into the game right now and asked you for the juicy tips.
Check the vendor every time you level. Actually worth the time to even teleport out to make sure you don't accidentally double level in the zone. You should actually stop what you're doing, TP, and check the vendors.
Also, still do it now. I check my vendors when I level up. Just the ones in my hideout. I can't be bothered going everywhere.
Okay. I was gonna say, like,
I'm not like going around to all the vendors, but like just the ones that are in my hideout. I also check them now. Like, I've picked up several items from vendors, still worth quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, gambling was strong for me. People have had mixed responses to that, because I did talk about it. But my experience has been gambling has had not necessarily great stuff, but better than your worst item will be easy to get. So work out what your worst item is and try to get better. Broadly speaking, trade-wise, like trade is more powerful than crafting things yourself. This is less true than it is in PoE 1, but it is still true in PoE 2. It's just not quite as extreme as it is in in the first game. So if you're actually optimization focused, then every exalt that you get, trade for an upgrade, and
That's
consider
exactly right.
looking for over-leveled gems that you can use, because that'll be a huge power up. Like gem levels in general, they will mess up your mana, but they will also mess up the enemies, and they'll mess up the enemies before they mess up your mana. Last thing, forget everything you learnt about life flasks in PoE1. There's a new life flask meta. You want duration life flask because you're not going to get alpha down very often, but you are going to take a lot more damage. So
You want duration, so you want the ones that last longer.
I'm more worried
like
about
things
mana.
that are like 61% increased recovery, but the duration is baseline, is fine.
Okay. So you don't want the recovery percent of recovery applied instantly.
No, use it before you need it. Use it when you're at 40% health, and you think you're about to go lower than that, and you don't need to use an instant one.
I use a belt that gives me 20% recovery applied instantly, so that I don't have to roll a less effective flask,
right?
But I still have some amount of instant.
Yeah, that's a good point. I thought that would stack nicely with the percentage of recovery instantly from the flask mod, but no, you're right. You just go for a flask mod that massively improves your recovery.
Yeah, something that's got 60% increased recovered, and the belt just gives you 20% instant, and you don't have to. You don't have to get rid of that.
Speaking of belts, have you got charm charges?
I did.
Or like slots, I mean, additional?
I had one additional, but it's like too expensive to get all the stats and res that I needed, and I just had to give it up.
I'm not impressed with charms so far. I've made no attempt to get a belt with extra charms. I'm still using an Act 1 charm because it's just...
I really like the idea of charms. I hate that the extra charm slots are a mod roll instead of something I unlock somehow by either character progression or item level of my belt or something. Like, I don't want it to be a mod slot. I like the idea.
I don't know. I don't mind it competing with I don't mind it competing with 23% fire res, because which am I going to take? I'll probably take the 23% fire res. Sounds like Balor would take plus two charm slots. So there's a divergence here, and that's a good thing. Gear divergence.
That's fair. Like an anti-stun, anti-freeze is what I really want. And in theory, a gold one as well, but those don't work, so don't use them.
Yeah, anti-freeze, though, it just not being able to save it for the moment that I really need it, having it go off when there's a freeze that I don't care about. That's the thing I don't like about them. And same with poisons. It's like, I mean, I'm using an anti-poison charm at the moment just because of inertia. It just does not feel very strong because, I didn't care about that poison. The next one might actually be scary. And then I would have cleansed it if I had a manual cleanse. As I said, in PoE1, I'm quite happy to use a manual cleanse for various ailments. There's a limit to how long you can do that for, but for, up to limping through tier 17s, I'll use a manual cleanse.
Oh, I got a good tip for newer players on in terms especially for monk, but probably any build. Leveling this moment you have 60 spirit, which would be by the end of Act 3, you get 30 in Act 1, 30 in Act 3, and then 40 in Act 3 again. So a total of 100. But by the end of Act 3, first time around, you can equip a Reaper's Invocation, which allows you to make a really potent cast on demand link that you can put all kinds of different utility in there. You could load up 2 or 3 spells depending on how many links you got in there. And I was using Profane Ritual to get power charges effectively passively. It was extraordinarily potent. I didn't use Reaper's Invocation until later because I didn't realize how good it would be. But if I had to level all over again, I would be using probably that. That makes the most sense while leveling, is the one that gives you energy on kill, because you just kill a lot of monsters, but you don't really have that much power otherwise. So it just makes a lot of an all-purpose invocation. So if you don't know anything about energy gems, spirit gems, if you look into it, you can make some really, really potent things and absolutely accelerate your build, for sure. There's something for everybody in that respect.
Yeah, that being very aware where you get your spirit, I think that's a great tip that I want to highlight again for new players. Is like in general, you want to. I don't know whether you're kind of person to look up things or you just want to go in blind, but just be aware that there's a lot of side content, a lot of like optional bosses that you don't really have to do, and you might skip them on your first playthrough intuitively because the quest doesn't direct you there per se. But you want to not skip them because all of them give you some sort of bonus. You get like your weapon swap passives, which essentially are just extra passives at that point because you're probably not going to do your specialization. Be aware though that you could do them specialized, but yeah, I digress. But there's also like simple resist buffs and situational buffs. Like if you can get an overview where you can get what from the campaign, from the optional side bosses, that was probably most helpful, and that's probably the sort of information that would have helped me the most on the first playthrough.
Well, I believe there's an icon, a plus symbol next to the side
Yes.
content if it actually offers you something valuable. If it doesn't, then it's just like a piece of gear or something random. It's not really, well, it's obviously not mandatory, but it's not only not mandatory, but it's not some sort of perma buff. There are some that are
Yeah, not
permanent
something
buffs,
you're
like the
missing out on.
spirit stuff. You
Yeah.
want to do any side content that has a plus symbol next to it. If you see that, then do it.
Yep.
Good point.
My last thing, because this has helped a bunch of new players, at least in my chat. If you're really, really struggling with the campaign, I can't suggest heavily enough keeping 4 charms in your inventory, ones that give each kind of resistance. And when you're up against a boss that is ruining you, swap in the correct charm. The one that's, if he's doing cold, put a cold charm on. If he's doing poison, put a poison charm on. It has helped people a lot.
Yeah, I think in general, like having like resist ring swaps for specific encounters can be very helpful. That was one of my takeaways from my early Act 2 rip when I was still in hardcore on the first character. Yeah, for sure. And also like something that I didn't know the first time around before I actually saw it, you can get like there's an amulet base later on that gives up to 15 spirit on the implicit, and there is a chest piece prefix roll for spirit that's like upwards of 30. You can get like, I have currently 46 spirit,
50.
I believe, on my chest piece. You
Okay,
can get
50.
more than. Yeah, and that's probably one of the new like absolute chase or mandatory stats on a chest piece because you don't want to max out your spirit most likely, and that's one of the few places where you can get it. Is there something else that I'm missing where you can get spirit other than the
Rings,
axe, the amulet, and you can get spirit on rings?
There's also 2 uniques that are only semi-chase. I can't think of the name of the chest that gives 100 spirit. It's not bad otherwise. It's not terrible. It's pretty solid as an overall package. And I think it was 8 exalts last time I checked. And Elvis Howl, I think, is a bit more chase. But I'm not up to date with the price on it. The feeling it was like 25 last time I looked.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Chat is pointing out that explicitly on amulets you can also have spirit, not just the 15 spirit base, but just like on the chest pieces, you can get up to 50 spirit on a prefix, I believe it is. Yeah.
And Folding Dawn apparently is 1x now, so that's
Venter's
the chest I
Gamble.
mentioned, 100 spirit.
Yeah, Venter's Gamble rings also come with spirit, but they are godly expensive.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I believe we covered it all then. Well, I'm gonna do the shout out portion for Sirgog because Sirgog has been delivering some excellent bossing guides for the Act 2 boss and the Act 1 boss, and yeah, you definitely should check that out. Is there any other content that we should be looking forward to from you, Sirgog? You're doing another boss guide,
I've got
right?
a feeling there'll be a patch tomorrow that I'll have to drop everything and cover. So there'll be like just patch notes discussion, and then there'll be like what else am I working on at the moment? Like I want to get around to some of the other bosses that are less significant, but that's going to be a bit of a project because they take a while to do if I do them properly.
Right. Well, what do we got coming from you, Snoobay?
Kind of suddenly making videos kind of daily. I just came out with one on how to get power charges, since that was the most asked question in my chat from monks. Also talking about Electrocute, the brand new elemental ailment that is extremely potent, and since you can roll roll crowd controls, like you can roll freeze into electrify, into stagger in some cases. It's extraordinarily strong if you build a character around that. And I gave a recommendation on how to put that into a build, or showed all the ways to get power charges, or all the ways to get electrocute. So doing a little bit of that kind of stuff, just kind of PSA informational videos. I'm actually thinking about making a full Sanctum run through video, all 4 floors uncut, talking about everything, the full experience. I had such a Sanctum is very, very frustrating early on, and then the very last time I did it, it was honestly one of the best experiences, because I changed a couple things to build. I approached it a little bit differently, and if I had known what I know now before, I could have saved myself a lot of headaches. So I think it would make for a pretty good video, just a straight shot, load it onto YouTube uncut, and some people want to put in the background, listen to it, and we'll probably hear some pretty good tips in that video. I think that might be my next one.
That sounds like something I will be looking forward to watch as well, because I want to get into that Sanctum, but I've had limited exposure to it so far, and I think every single run you see new things, you learn new things, and if I can take away some insights from someone else's run before I do my own next one, it's going to be massively better. Balor, what do you have coming up?
Oh, I have no idea. It's now too late in the day for my brain to function. Tools have started coming out, specifically trade tools. Few of them, different ones than what we normally use as well, that have been fine. So I'm going to do a video on those soon. There'll be a lot of people that have just never used trade tools before, so like what they do, how to use them, etc., and the links to all the valid ones that work for PoE 2. So that, more minion updates, and then whatever I re-roll into, which could be one of like 17 different things that exist in my brain waiting to get played. I want to play everything. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that was actually one of the questions on my sheet, but I don't want to get into that again. I'll ask the people on the next podcast. But yeah, as for myself, I have returned after a long absence, and I'm finally doing daily streams again, and I'm already on the 10th day in a row where I'm doing a stream, like not skipping any days. That's my highest priority right now, because I just want to give back, because people have been supporting me, even though there was a content dry period really hard. So for this Christmas period, until at least the end of the year, I'm going to be live every day for multiple hours. And probably a lot more, though, from the 20th, when I finally don't have to work anymore. And yeah, then probably also some videos. But I haven't thought about videos at all, because that's my number one priority, is just deliver streams and podcasts. And yeah, thanks to awesome people like Sirgog and Snoobe, we'll be running this podcast for a long time, because we always have interesting guests here and top things to talk about. And yeah, if you guys are supporting the podcast in any way monetarily, your name is always shown on the end screen. You can purchase subscriptions on the various platforms, but most importantly, I want you to go out and support the content creators who you liked speaking on here, who you liked to hear speak on here. And I also want to announce the next podcast real quick. We are going to be joined at the same time as today, in 7 days from now, on December the 22nd, we're going to do a podcast with Willy Wonka and Green Dude, two absolute ARPG legends who are back for PoE 2 and are going to deliver some insights. Those people were, if you don't know the names, and I'm sure you don't, some of you at least don't, because I'm pretty sure Balor didn't know them. At least he told me. Those people were already legends when I started playing Path of Exile, like more than 10 years ago, right? The streamers that at the time inspired me quoted them as their inspiration. So real dinosaurs, content, megalodons or something like that. Anyway, I've popped myself into a corner, guys.
Oh, it's we're all having fun with the game, right? We're all enjoying PoE 2.
No, I'm refunding tomorrow.
We didn't really,
What people saying
we
they
didn't really
refund
talk
early
about
access?
the elephant in the room, which I guess is so many people not liking the game for some reason. But yeah, I
There
think
aren't-
we're all on the same page here.
There aren't that many people.
Yeah, I think you're probably
If you
right.
if you go to a bunch of different YouTube videos and find all the people that are negative and compare them, it's like the same 20 or 30 people.
Yeah,
And if you just look at the Steam charts, it's holding really well. So
Mm.
the people who are unhappy are very loud. Most
Yeah.
people pretty
Yeah.
happy.
all it
And that's
takes is
fine.
one
Like, I think
elephant in
it's
the
good
room.
if there's people that choose PoE 1 over PoE 2 because they've tried both and they find PoE 1 more fun. I think it's
There'll
good if the
always be.
games diverge enough. There's a bunch of people that do that. And it's
Yeah.
like, I'm not ever going to say that like that PUBG is not a classic game, like, you know, that has a lot of fans. It doesn't work for me. That doesn't mean it's not a good game. You know, it shouldn't change to accommodate me. It should stay what it is for its fans. And
Yeah, true words.
I guess the only question is,
And-
what should Path of Exile 2 become? That's a big question.
Not Path of Exile 1, please.
different.
Exactly.
I look forward to 1 as a palate cleanse, but it will be a palate cleanse. I think 2 is looking better at the moment.
I suspect I'll be one of the people that go to PoE 1 for like 3 or 4 weeks every league, and then spend more time on PoE 2. But I am 100% certain that there will be people and content creators who are more the opposite way. They'll be like, I'll spend a few weeks at PoE 2 when it launches, but most of my time over here, right?
And good.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest upsides, like outside of PoE 2, that PoE 2 is now out in an early access, is it allows PoE 1 to be more of PoE 1, and like all the traces of ruthless ambitions in PoE 1 can be slowly eradicated and
Hopefully.
They've
or
long
tweaked
been
out.
eradicated. PoE 1 is like if you were to go back to any of the past leagues, even high loot, even leagues that were considered high loot at the time, like Ritual, it would just feel like, oh, there's no monsters anywhere, there's no loot. And that was something that was considered high loot at the time. Heist in its high point would be considered low loot now. Like, yeah. And character power keeps going up in PoE 1 as well. It's like they're really pushing against the limits of the hit point cap on bosses. Like, they've already had to design Ubers in a way they never had to before with pinnacle bosses in PoE 1 because of the hit point cap.
Right. Crazy. Yeah, all kinds of interesting topics to delve into, but I want to not hold you here longer than we agreed to, and we've already done a finishing round, and I'll much rather have you back real soon again to talk about more developments in PoE 2. Thank you for taking the time today to be here, and like I said, thanks to the audience, clap and chat. Follow Sirgog, Snoobay, Balor, subscribe to the Twitches. We still got the promotion running where if you give 2 Twitch subscriptions or you buy 2 Twitch subscriptions on any Path of Exile 2 streaming channel, you're getting the CatmasterOP in Path of Exile 2, as long as your Path of Exile account is linked to your Twitch account. Make sure of that beforehand. But also there's still Twitch drops where the Time Lord portal or something like that, right, is currently...
Chronomancer's portal or whatever, yeah.
Yeah. That's a thing right now, so you only have to watch 3 hours of Path of Exile 2 in Twitch. So definitely check that out. Give your support to the content creators that you like. They need it in this Christmas period to keep up the spirits. And yeah, thanks for watching. The podcast will be uploaded in full, as always, available on my YouTube and on Spotify. Apologies for the last episode coming there a little bit late. Go to bit.ly/faded146 for the countdown timer to the next episode as soon as that's up. And until next time, have a wonderful time playing. And as Sirgog always says, may your Val orbs
Have interesting results.
Say the thing. Yeah, there we go.
They did the thing.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I know a lot of people want to
See you
send
all. Have a good
blankets or water. Just send your cash.